Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are delving through the profile of Concepcion. We're going to take a look at his profile, usage, some box scores against ranked competition, some advanced stats, take a look at some All-22 film while I read a synopsis of his strengths and weaknesses, talk about where he might go in terms of real-life draft capital and in terms of our rookie draft specifically, as well as a couple of potential team fits based on where he's projected to go in the NFL draft. And so watch to the end of this video and you should have a pretty good idea. Now, taking a look at his height and weight, both PFF and NFL Draft Buzz have him listed at 5'11", 190 pounds. Being 5'11" would be 23rd percentile among receiver prospects, and being 190 pounds would be 22nd percentile. He's just not the biggest guy. And in terms of the projected 40-yard dash time per NFL Draft Buzz, they have him listed at a 4.46, which would be plenty fast, and would be 66th percentile among wide receiver prospects. Overall, I think he's going to be plenty athletic, and I think that's going to prove out at the Combine. Now, taking a look at his production profile, he went bonkers as a true freshman at NC State, posting 105 targets, 72 receptions, 845 receiving yards, 10 receiving touchdowns, and a 76.7 PFF receiving grade. Things didn't go quite as well for him in his true sophomore season, still at NC State. 88 targets, 53 receptions, 460 receiving yards, dipping from 11.7 to 8.7 yards per reception, going from 10 to 6 touchdowns, and then posting a 60.0 PFF receiving grade. But after transferring to Texas A&M, he definitely bounced back in a big way this season, posting 93 targets, 57 receptions, 886 receiving yards, 9 receiving touchdowns, along with a career-best PFF receiving grade of 83.2. In terms of his injury history, there's really nothing to be too concerned about here. I mean, this season he, pulled a hamstring, but was able to continue playing through it and then didn't miss the next week either. So injuries aren't going to be anything to be concerned about with his profile. Now, taking a look at some box scores here, I want to take a look here against ranked competition with all of these prospects. We're not just going to be purely box score watching. We're going to get into some advanced stats here in a minute. But I like to look at how these guys perform, at least statistically, against ranked competition, players that he might actually see at the NFL level. So against number 8 Notre Dame, in a win, he went 4 for 82 with a long of 45. Did not see any work in the ground game, but he does from time to time. Taking a look further at number 20 LSU, he went 3 for 45 and a touchdown. Did not see any work on the ground in that game in a win. Against number 22 Mizzou, he went 4 for 84 and a touchdown, including a long of 48, along with 2 carries for 8 yards on the ground. And finally, this past game against number 16 Texas in a loss, he went 5 for 57 and 0 with a long of 19, but did see a rush for 8 yards and did end up scoring in that game. And so overall, he doesn't have, truly dynamic production against some of these ranked competition teams, but he does seem to have a knack for scoring against ranked competition, and so that is something that I will note positively on his profile. Moving on to some advanced stats here, among FBS wide receivers with 50 or plus targets, that was a sample size of 200. KC ran 327 routes, which is 93.7% of the team routes. Looking at his specific usage, he was used for the most part as a Z, but did see a lot of slot work in 11 personnel. And so he saw 35.2% of his snaps from the slot and 64.5% from the boundary from the Z. Solid usage. I expect at the NFL level, his slot snap percentages will probably rise a little bit from there, but I do think that he can play both Z and slot just fine. Taking a look at his yards per out run, his 2.71 mark was tied for 21st in the sample size. Solid number there. His 83.2 PFF receiving grade was 17th in the sample size. Solid number there. Taking a look at his ability after the catch, his yak perception of 7.2 was 26 in the sample size. Solid number. With 13 forced missed tackles, which is tied for 40th. I do think he's one of the better yak guys that I've seen so far from this class, and I do think that he's going to be pretty nasty from the slot at the NFL level in terms of creating yak. But one thing that's very important if he's going to play slot is contested catch ability. You have to have the hands. Well, he had 8 out of 13 contested catches caught this season for a 61.5% contested catch percentage. Typically, we want these guys to be at a threshold of at least 50%. And so with a decent sample size of 13 targets here per PFF, he has 61.5% of those completed. That is above average, and that is going to be very good. And I really hope this translates at the NFL level. Although from time to time, he does deal with concentration drops, but I think he'll be able to get that cleaned up with some good coaching. Taking a look at targets and targets per game, he had 93 targets on the season at 7.8 per game. Solid number there, but was only able to convert that into 57 receptions at 4.8 per game. Now, to be fair, he did see some shots downfield, so he wasn't strictly seeing short area work, but we would hopefully see him be a little bit more efficient at the NFL level. Taking a look at his yards and yards per game, he had 886 on the season at 73.8 per game. That's not, the mark of some of these top tier guys like Carnell Tate, for instance, but still a solid number nonetheless. But he had 9 receiving touchdowns at 0.8 per game in 12 total games played, along with a rushing touchdown as well. And I do think he's going to continue to see some rush usage, on those end around plays and plays like that, because I do think that he's going to be utilized as a runner as well as, a slot or Z receiver at the NFL level. And I want to give a special shout out to my Patreon members. Thank you to Big Hunt, SP, Mage Jack, Infamy MTG, AOYOB, The Don, and Any Buckeye. Thank you guys. I'm doing this full time now, and without your support, this would not be possible. If you'd like to become a member, I'm going to leave a link in both the comment section and description of this video. You'll receive not only, but including access to a Discord where we have a channel where we have NFL and college football talk, as well as a channel where we have fantasy football talk, and a third channel where we laugh at poor trade offers that we've been offered in fantasy football. But if you'd like to, you can always DM me with private, questions if you don't wish for it to be known by any community members. But you'll also get help with building your fantasy football teams every year. I'll use wins above replacement, as well as just looking at the general lineup and scoring settings to help you with your teams each year. I'll help you with trades that are advantageous based on those factors as well. You'll be part of a fun and growing active community. You'll not only receive access to videos early guaranteed, but you'll also have the ability to ask for personal videos that you and only you can view. Or potentially, if you'd like something to be shown on the channel, you'll have preferential treatment there as well. So please consider becoming a member. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video. Now, while some All-22 clips display some of what I'm going to be mentioning here, I'm going to read you an around 3-minute brief synopsis in which I've written about KC's strengths and weaknesses. So, KC is a true junior out of Texas A&M who projects to be a Z/slot receiver at the NFL level. He was at around 35% slot percentage and 64% boundary percentage. I think that could potentially flip a little bit, but I do think that he stands to be able to play both positions at the NFL level. But he stands at 5'11" and 190 pounds and will be a dynamic weapon for an NFL offense. But one thing he will likely not be at the NFL level is a particularly good run blocker due to his frame and size. A team could ask him to gain a little bit of weight to potentially help there, but I don't think they're going to want to sacrifice the ridiculous yak and athleticism that he brings to the table, which should be a tremendous boon to any NFL offense. But the good news is there is a lot he brings to the table to compensate for this, which will likely make him an early day 2 pick or potentially even have him creep up into late round 1 if he has good interviews and a good combine. Definitely not out of the realm of possibility. One of his best traits, though, is his yak ability, where he has fantastic spatial awareness, which he pairs with a nasty jump cut and ridiculous burst to get up to very good top shelf speed. I don't think he gets enough credit for how absolutely blazing fast he is. He will shatter angles with regularity. He will break tackles, though, by converting speed to power and will thrive when schemed into space. I think he's going to see a lot of work in the run game. I think he's going to, on those end arounds, on those pop passes. I also think that you're going to use him in the screen game, use him on rub routes, option routes as well. He's going to be dynamic. He's a dynamic route runner against both man and zone from the Z or slot, and will be able to create quick separation against man while consistently finding the soft spots in zone. He's a very high IQ player, in my opinion. He works well in scramble drill, and he will be a very friendly option for his quarterback. On those All-22 clips, you're going to see him working a couple times in scramble drill with his quarterback to complete the ball. He can also be used vertically down the field, though, and he pairs, once again, fantastic short area burst with dynamic long speed. And I think he can be one of the more dangerous vertical slots at the NFL level as well. He's fantastic at tracking the ball deep down the field and has a solid vertical to make up for his lack of ideal height for the position. But once again, he's probably not going to be mossing people too often just due to his frame. He needs to work on reducing focus drops, Uh, they're really just inexcusable at times, but he will make up for it with tough contested grabs, as evidenced by his 61.5% contested catch percentage. And once again, this is something I think he's going to clean up at the NFL level with good coaching. And I think he will be a dynamic player for his future team as a primary slot with the upside to work into 2 wide receiver sets as a Z as well. Overall, I think this guy you should definitely be excited about. And I'm really hoping he keeps that high-end day 2 draft capital or slips in around 1. Moving on to projected draft capital. Per NFL Draft Buzz, he's supposed to be an early round 2 player. I hope he sees this draft capital. If so, he has a chance to go to some of these teams that are a little bit shorthanded in the receivers department. And so if he goes in this general range, obviously we'd prefer first round draft capital, but if he does end up being an early day 2 pick, I think that's going to be very good for him, and he could see a lot more target volume right away. Once again, reading over a brief summarization of some of his strengths and areas to potentially improve. His yak ability. He's dynamic. He has a good feel for space and where the defenders are around him. He has a nasty juke. And he can break tackles, actually. He does turn speed into power there. In terms of releases, his releases versus off coverage are fantastic. And he even has that little Devontae Adams hop step release that's really cool to see. So I think he's going to improve there. And what's already a strength is going to be a magnificent strength for him at the NFL level. He's good against both man and zone. And he has a good feel for the soft spots in zone. And he does work with his quarterback in scramble drill. So something I like to see. And he's very good at ball tracking deep down the field. He doesn't have the biggest frame, so he's not necessarily going to moss people. But if he does get some separation, he's good at tracking the ball and has decent body control as well. Now, areas to potentially improve, hands. It's more so the focus drops and just the drops, where the ball's coming to you and you just kind of want to peek at where defenders are around you to try to set yourself up after the catch. Sometimes he drops those. But, he did have, once again, over a 61% contested catch percentage. So I don't think that's his hands as a whole, I don't really think are an issue. His frame, both his BMI, 5'11", 190, that's kind of it's kind of like a Jaden Reed type of profile there. And wingspan, you can't really do anything about your wingspan. And blocking, it's with a lot of these guys that just aren't, 6'4", 220 pounds. His blocking is just not going to be a strength. And I don't think that teams are going to want to run behind him at the NFL level. I don't know how much that's going to improve, but hopefully we do see a little bit more improvement because it will help him stay on the field if he can become a little bit better of a blocker. Moving on to my pro comparison for KC Concepcion, I think Jaden Reed is a player he resembles a lot because, he's like a running back with the ball in his hands. And I do think that they're going to use him on those end arounds, on those pop passes. Just get the ball in his hands, let him follow his blocks. He is dynamic in space. He'll juke you out of your shoes. He can break tackles from time to time. And I do think that he can work as a vertical Z like Jaden Reed did coming out. And but like Jaden Reed, I think he's going to see a lot more slot work at the NFL level. If he lands in one of these Shanahan, McVay types of offenses, I think he could be in for some massive production there. Hopefully he sees a lot more consistent usage than Jaden Reed does. But to be fair to Jaden Reed, it's the Green Bay Packers offense. Almost nobody ever sees enough consistent volume there to be a producer for us. In terms of where I think the dynasty community will probably have him ranked, I think they'll have him in that wide receiver 33 to 36 tier with a lot of other guys that could potentially be wide receiver 2s. In terms of where I would probably end up taking him in a rookie draft right now, I think I'd probably take him early round 2. Landing spot, if he goes to an absolutely ideal landing spot with, late round 1, early round 2 draft capital, I could definitely see him rising up boards. But I don't think he profiles as somebody that's going to be a truly dynamic wide receiver 1 at the NFL level. Now, in terms of a couple of potential fits, I think the Broncos at 32nd overall, they could use a nasty slot weapon. I think that they could try putting Pat Bryant at X to replace Cortland Sutton with time. And I like him with Bo Nix and scramble drill as well. And I think, Sean Payton could get him the ball in space. He's a good schemer. In terms of another fit, the Titans at 34th overall, they're really hurting at wide receiver. I could see them taking more of a boundary receiver, so they might have a true X, but I do think that KC would work well with Cam Ward in scramble drill. We see scramble drill constantly with Ward as he looks to extend the play time and time again. Another fit, the Giants at 35th overall. Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be an unrestricted free agent after this season, and so I think he could potentially directly fill that role and be a little bit more dynamic than Wan'Dale is. Another fit, the Saints at 36th overall. So, with the Saints, they do have Vele, who's kind of like a big slot, but I do think that in Kellen Moore's offense, KC would see a lot of schemed work and be pretty good. They might look to build around Tyler Shough. They might select a quarterback this year. Who knows, really? But I do think that in Kellen Moore's offense, he would be a pretty good fit as well. And really, Chris Olave would be the main target competition. So and I see KC kind of being a wide receiver 2 at the NFL level and in offense ideally. So I think that'd be a pretty good fit. And so what are your thoughts on KC Concepcion? Let me know below in the comment section. I think he's an interesting profile. I think he profiles more as a real life wide receiver 2. But in the right offense, he could be absolutely dynamic if he gets the ball in space. Once again, I think one of these McVay Shanahan types of offenses would be really, really good for him. But yeah, let me know what you think about him below in the comment section. With that being said, if you appreciate this video, I would really appreciate your support via Patreon. I'm doing this full time now. Thank you to my Patreon members. If you cannot or do not wish to, if you could just like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, I would really appreciate it. Thanks and have a good day.